Hi guys, we're here again. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a nice rest during the Beltane holiday. What a nightmare it's been over here. How are you, Harry?
We've had days where it is very cold and other days very hot. So here in California, it's like one day the oven's on, the next day the fridge is on. So it's weird.
There's one thing that threw me yesterday. Um, I went to another city to meet up with a friend, and it was like 10 hours in the car there, and the same coming back. And a lot of the roads here at the expressway, they're toll roads, right? You got to pay toll.
Yeah.
Well, I left here at 7:30 in the evening and got to where I was going at 5:30 in the morning. So we drove through the night. The traffic was horrendous, and also yesterday. Now, what they've done or what they do, I wasn't aware of this, is they don't close the toll roads. They just open the barriers, and there's nobody there. So for those few days, all those toll roads are free to use. But the amount of traffic that's on the road is absolutely horrendous. So you would think that in reality, the amount of lost income that the government get, right, would be in the billions. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. But this is communist China, right? Notice something else. You can't listen to nearly anybody online, whether it be mainstream media or alternative media. A lot of these guys, they can't mention the word China without putting communist before it. Communist China, yeah, because it's bad. And I was thinking about it coming back yesterday when I realised that there was these toll roads were free during the holiday. And I'm thinking it's so bad here in China that the government will do this and forfeit potential millions or billions of the Chinese yuan. And then I started thinking, and I started looking from a different pair of eyes, how things work in the West with we have the left and the right paradigm, the divide and conquer, and the government tend to use, if they've got one agenda to push, they'll use, say, the left to help them push it, and they've got another one, they use the right to push it.
Yeah.
You don't have that in China. You don't have that in Russia. You have the government and you have the people. And it certainly seems to me that if the government was to overstep the mark, they don't actually have a side to play against another side.
Yeah, to push them back.
Yeah, you would have people that would agree with what the government are doing or saying, and you'd have other people that wouldn't agree. So it doesn't work the same here and in Russia as it does in the West, because you don't have the division that can be fueled from either side, depending on which agenda. Does that make sense?
So they have to have a definite different strategy then to deal with. Maybe they don't have extreme views as much. Maybe they're more moderate, because if they go extreme on one side, then there's nowhere to go to push back.
Well, what I'm saying is that there isn't two sides like there is in America. For the most part, you've got the Chinese population who are basically unified, right? They're just happy to get along with their lives and do whatever they want to do. If they're told what to do by the government, of course they do it. But I think there's a line in the sand that the government couldn't cross, because the people would go, well, hang on a minute, no, we're not having this. Whereas it's much easier in places like the US, because you've got the left-right paradigm. Yeah. You've got the Trump supporters, and you've got the three Biden supporters. You've got the mainstream media, which is going to fuel one side against the other side. Yet, it's places like China and Russia that are painted to be so bad, when, as we would expect in this inverted world, that the opposite is true.
You said the word I was waiting to say. It's the inversion. Whereas here we have that perception of, oh, I have two choices. I can go one way or the other. In reality, the middle ground, we already know. You don't pick the extremes. You go right down the middle, and that's the best choice.
Yeah.
The minute you pick a side, you've got opposition on your, on both sides. So the bottom line is, like you said, the reason why those roads are free on the holiday, and they're probably more packed when they're free than when they're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the traffic jams would be horrendous, right? And I'm not exaggerating. If if each car had to stop and pay its toll, the traffic jams would be horrendous. People just go straight through.
Yeah. So the people who are using it during the week, regular non-holiday, they're not as few. So it's never going to be backed up like you said it could have been, No,
but I guess the point that I'm trying to make and what kind of hit me was, it's clear that they're not putting revenue above everything else. Letting people get on their. It was said. I mean, I don't know where they get these stupid numbers from, but 220 million people would be traveling during this break, which is quite easy to believe. Especially when you consider the size of this place. So you imagine 220 million people, and if you divide that by 2 or even 3, depending on how many people are in a car, that's a lot of cars. Yeah, paying a lot. I mean, the average, like where I went, which was a long way, would have been 400 yuan. So it would have been close to about $80 on the freeway, on the expressway. So $80 times that amount of cars, and that was just a guesstimate. It gives you some idea of how much money, or how much currency could have been raised, but hasn't been because of the way that they decided to do it. So, then on the opposite side, I don't want to get all political because I think all politics is bullshit anyway. But we live in a democracy. Well, what's a democracy? Democracy is mob rule, isn't it? You got 51% telling you
51, 49. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. I didn't mention it earlier. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to hand over to Harry, and we're going to talk this week about love. Now, sounds all fluffy bunny, but let's just say, before I hand over to Harry, let's just say that how many love songs can you think of? What is love? That's the age-old question. But the English language has got one word for love. There's so many meanings. The Chinese language has got one word for love. We talked about AI when we did our AI God podcast. If you haven't seen that, guys, it's a couple of months ago. It's called the AI God, where we talk about artificial intelligence. But we've kind of moved on a little bit from that, haven't we? The original AI could have been authentic intelligence, which has been taken over with artificial intelligence, or by artificial intelligence, when we had the hijack a few hundred years ago. But the Greek language, and all of you that have been following our podcast will know that Harry is essentially native Greek, and he knows the Greek language. So Greek has got 8 words for love, right, Harry?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Well, let me share the screen, and then you can get into it, bro.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that we're going to establish by talking about how one language versus another can have more than one word mean the same thing. The point we're going to try to make is AI definitely falls short in understanding or being able to express or even relate to more than just one kind of love. So we're going to start with a possible stairway to heaven. the 8 forms of love. So a lot of people know about the most common, probably most known type of love is the erotic love, or Eros, our first one. And so we'll start with Eros as the god of love. He was possessing passion, lust, and subdues his object of desire. As you can see from the picture on the side, it is what makes the world go round, is what we have learned. With golden wings, not pictured here, the Cupid, he uses his bow and arrow and he infects his prey with the spawn and spawns new life. So what we're saying here is the ancients considered Eros to be dangerous and frightening, as it involved the loss of control to the primal impulses to procreate. In other words, you had such a lustful desire to get that next generation going, you could have put yourself in harm's way because that primal urge to procreate just shut down every other mental capacity that you had. So Eros is a passionate and intense form of love that arouses romantic and sexual feelings. That is obvious from that picture on the right.
Okay. I want, guys, while you listen to this, just hang on to that that phrase that Harry's put here, sexual feelings. I want you to hang on to the word feeling, because when we get to the end of this this PowerPoint, there's something that I want to throw out in there that I had a sudden realization a while ago, that we're taught that in this realm we have 5 senses. And yet we have shown that everything in this realm revolves around 7. And I actually think that we have 7 senses. And I'll come to, I don't want to digress now, but I'll come to that at the end of the PPT. So remember the word feelings, guys.
So again, we're basing a lot of the Eros or erotic love on feelings. And in some cases, it's probably just a chemical reaction. But we've talked about love and how it could just be a reaction of the chemistry. But so Eros is a primal and powerful fire that burns out quickly. And that's probably one of its hamstrings or weaknesses, that it can burn out quickly because it burns so hot. It needs its flame to be fanned through one of the deeper forms of love, which we're going to come to below, as it is centered around the selfless or selfish aspects of love. That is personal infatuation and physical pleasure.
Okay, so pretty self-explanatory there. We all know what erotic is.
Yes.
Erotic is. Okay.
So that brings us to number 2, which is philia, which is affectionate love. The ancients valued philia for far above Eros because it was considered a love between equals. In previous, we saw it was more of an angelic or superior that was going to have intimate love with a human or someone considered lower. In this case, it's equals. So a friendship expressed in a form of a handshake or a high five or a fist bump would be an example of how someone would greet someone in this type of affectionate love. And Aristotle put it like this: philia is a dispassionate, virtuous love that is free from the intensity of sexual attraction. It often involved the feeling of loyalty among friends, camaraderie among teammates, and the sense of sacrifice for your pack. So this would be when you're in a team environment, or maybe in battle with the soldier to your right or left. You build this relationship, and it's a pretty tight one.
So like teammates, or in a school, classmates.
Yeah, and no passion involved. It's just virtue.
Right. Okay.
The next one we're going to look at is storge, or familial love. This is the type of love you'll have for your kids will have for you. It resembles philia in that it's a love without physical attraction. But storge is primarily to do with kinship and familiarity. So someone that you've been around for years, maybe you grew up with, again, a parent. Storge is a natural form of affection that often flows between parents, children, and the child and their parents. It's not limited, though, to bloodlines. We've seen that you can experience this kind of relationship between non-related individuals, like a step parent, for example, or maybe a child you've adopted, or just a long-term family friend that has been associated with the family.
A bro from another mo.
Yes, exactly. Next, we have number 4 would be ludus, or a playful love. As you can see, it's like carving the initials in the tree, or getting that bouquet of roses from that little boy. Ludus is the feeling we have when we go through the early stages of falling in love with someone. Example, like the fluttering heart, the sweaty palms, the flirting, the teasing, the feeling of euphoria. The playfulness in love is an essential ingredient that is often lost in long-term relationships. A lot of times people complain, people have been married 5, 6, the 7-year itch, and they have just lost that playfulness, that ludus. So yet playfulness is one of the secrets to keeping the childlike innocence of the love alive, interesting and exciting. So it's maybe coined as puppy love.
Okay. So like when the wife's in the kitchen and she's doing the washing the dishes and she's got wet hands and you sneak up behind her and tickle her, that kind of thing.
Exactly, that playfulness. Okay. So the next one, this is where we start getting kind of interesting. It's the mania or mania. It's an obsessive love. If you recall that movie Fatal Attraction, it doesn't end too well for either side. So mania love is a type of love that leads a partner into a type of madness and obsessiveness. It occurs when there's an imbalance between eros and ludus. If you can have eros and ludus have a balance, you never get to mania. But this is where there's a total imbalance.
Well, you can see that it's obviously the root word of maniac, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So this person wants to love and be loved to find a sense of self-value. If you don't have that self-value, you're not going to find it by trying to be loved or loved. So because of this, they can become possessive, jealous lovers, feeling as though they desperately need their partner. Talk about having to need someone else to complete you. No thanks. With no reciprocation, there is usually an explosion that eventually rips apart the relationship. Can you say codependency?
Well, obviously not. No, that's a one-sided love, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, you have one person who just needs that other person just so they can breathe. And in the case of this movie, I mean, this girl can't have Michael Douglas, so she figures if I can't have him, his wife sure won't.
So I guess a stalker would fall into this category, right?
Definitely a stalker. So the next one is one that we all hope to achieve, and that's pragma, or enduring love.
Well, see the word pragmatic straight away in that.
Yeah, exactly. So pragma is a love that has aged, matured, and developed over time. It's beyond the physical. It has transcended the casual, and it has a unique harmony that has formed over time. So you can find pragma in married couples who've been together for a long, long time, or in a friendship that has endured for decades. Unfortunately, pragma is a type of love is not easily found. Unlike the other types of love, pragma is the result of efforts on both sides. It's a compromise as the key element here. And when you're able to give up something that you want for the other person, that other person is going to eventually know that they're going to give up that same amount to make you happy. And that's where that element of giving up something and sacrificing just really connects those two people together.
Well, I need to stop the share a minute. What I'm seeing, the more that I'm learning, when we look at what we talked about many times before about our physical body being the quote unquote car, the soul element being the driver. Now, clearly what you're talking about in that one, number 6, is that the driver is more important than the car.
Yeah.
When we're young, you know, what we're looking for when we go out to a bar or a club or whatever, we're looking for a car, aren't we? We're looking for a pretty car.
Yeah.
And young girls, they've got all the makeup on, and you know they make themselves look beautiful, which is akin to putting mag wheels on your car and you know, go faster stripes and all that kind of thing.
Well, and the other thing too, Nigel, all we want to do is look under the hood.
Absolutely. And I'm actually finding more and more of this in my own personal life. What is more important? Is it the car or is it the driver? And the obvious answer is the driver. And I can look at my own parents for this. I mean, my parents have been married for like 65 years or something nonsensical. You can be absolutely 100% certain that there is no eros there when you get to the your mid 80s kind of thing. And it also reminds me of, you know, sadly you've told us that you recently lost your dad, and a close friend of mine here also, she lost her dad around the same time. And my friend's mum is just not in a good place. I've got a really good friend who she's from Australia. She works in Cambodia, and her parents were together for, you know, forever. And I forget which way around it was, but one of them died and the other one died within 24 hours. So my friend lost both her parents within a 24-hour period. And to me, that kind of demonstrates, where are we? That kind of demonstrates the power of this particular type of love, which is what we're talking about. And it really does go beyond the physical.
It does.
You know what I mean? It really does go beyond the physical.
Yeah, at this point, you know, the car that the person is driving has already been dented, scratched, the paint is gone, you know, the hair is gray, and a lot of the parts have broken down. Yeah. But the two will stay together because they've already bonded as the spark of one and the spark of the other have connected.
And I think that is very, very powerful for people to understand. And most people that are watching this, most of our subs would understand if they, you know, that they wouldn't be here if they didn't kind of get this. But I think it's something that's worth just reiterating again, that the quote unquote driver is far more important than the car. I mean, how many times do you you know, you meet someone and you fall in love, or what you think is love, and a few years down the track you find out that, well, she's not the person that I thought she was, or he's not the person that I thought he was. Before you know, you know, you've got a broken family, you've got to get divorced, and the kids are upset because, you know, mum and dad and everything else. But that's all part of learning. It's all part of our journey, as far as I'm
concerned. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's go to number 7.
Number 7 is a self-love, and that's called philaphia. Philathea is a self-love, but not like the narcissistic love that's pictured below. It's more of a understanding that in order to take care of others, you must first learn to take care of yourself. The form of self-love is not the unhealthy vanity, but instead is the self-love that is the healthy in the healthiest form. It shares the Buddhist philosophy of the self-compassion, which is a deep understanding that only once you have that strength to love yourself and feel comfortable in your own skin, that's when you'll be able to provide love for others. It's like when the airplane steward or stewardess is telling you, when the oxygen mask drops, make sure to put it on your face first before you do that to your child.
Well, there's a lot of the old philosophy that talks about, you know, and you probably find it in the Bible as well, I'm sure, that talks about learning to love yourself first. Because if you don't know how to love yourself, then you don't know how to love other people. And I see this as just living a healthy life, just taking care of yourself. You know, eat good food and you know, just do the right thing. Bit of exercise and so on and so forth. Just simply looking after yourself.
Yeah, I mean, if you it said, you know, in the biblical sense, it says love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hate yourself, you're not going to be able to love anyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're gonna treat them the same way. You hate yourself, you're gonna hate them.
Yeah.
So, as Aristotle put it, all friendly feelings for others are an extension of a man's feelings for himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's totally true. Absolutely.
When you're treating others with respect, it's because you are respecting yourself first. So.
And getting back to what I was saying at the beginning before we started this. This is what I see all around me in China. People are very, very willing to help you, even a total stranger, because they don't expect anything in return.
Yeah.
At least for the most part. I can't say that about everybody I know here, but you know, probably 90%.
Well, with the guy with the umbrella, remember that time he stopped?
Yeah, guy with the umbrella.
He wasn't going to get any benefit from that, but he just wanted to do a good deed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you missed it, just very quickly, I came out of work a couple of weeks ago, and it was raining, and I was on my bike going down the street, and a guy pulled up about 100 meters or so in front of me, got out of his car, opened his boot, and pulled out and offered me an umbrella. And I'm like, whoa, thank you, but it wasn't raining that heavy; it was only drizzling. But it was the fact that was an act of kindness. I didn't know this guy from Adam. I had no way of knowing how I could get this umbrella back to him if I had taken it. But the fact that he showed that act of kindness was just, you know, from a total stranger. But that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon at all. Okay, so let's pull up the number 8.
Yeah, number 8 is probably the one that is the most used in a modern communication, like in a Greek conversation. You always hear the word agape,
yeah.
and that's the selfless love. Now, I mean, growing up, I always, you know, heard my mom say "sagapo, sagapo," and that just means I love you. But this is the highest and most radical type of love, according to the Greeks, is agape, and it's self-love. It's unconditional love, selfless love. This type of love is not the sentimental outpouring that often passes as the love in our society. It has nothing to do with the condition-based type of love that our sex-obsessed culture tries to pass as love. So when we think of you know, someone who is trying to hit the dating scene, he's not thinking about agape at that point. We already talked about that. But agape is what some call spiritual love. It's an unconditional love bigger than ourselves, a boundless compassion, and infinite empathy it is what Buddhists describe as the metta, or universal loving kindness. It's the purest form of love that is free from desire and expectation, and loves regardless of the flaws and outcomes of others. So you could look at someone who, hasn't accomplished anything great, but you still love them anyway. It doesn't matter. It's unconditional.
It's what I would call human nature in its purest form.
Yeah, exactly.
It's human nature to do this and it's human nature to do that. No, it's not. For the most part, it's learned behavior. But agape, I mean, we talked about this, came across this years ago. But as you say, it just means unconditional love, which to me is just human nature. I mean, if you look at, I had a photo of it somewhere. If you look, you search on the internet, and you will find examples of two very, very young babies, lying together or sitting together, and one's giving the other one his what do you call it? We call it a dummy, the thing they stock on. I had this beautiful picture of two very, very young kids, very, very young babies, probably 6 months old, sleeping, and one had got his arm around the other as they were laying on their side sleeping. Loads of examples that you can find. That is just, if you can see that in such a young child that can't even talk yet, let alone anything else, then that to me is the true meaning of agape, which is the human.
Yeah. So of all these 8, it's easy to see that the AI knows only one of these 8.
Yeah.
And the one it knows is Eros.
Yeah.
It knows the physical desire to procreate. When you look at scripture, even in the Old Testament, the God that pushes Israel to go forward and capture land after land wants one thing, kill all the men, rape all the women, and do what you want with the kids.
Go forth and multiply. Yeah, go forth and multiply.
And in some cases, just kill them all. So the love that AI understands is very limited. Like we said in the past, AI is akin to being a mentally damaged individual of today.
Absolutely.
And lacks total compassion, not at all, has not an ounce, doesn't even understand or comprehend compassion. And so that's why love is just one word in the universal language that we speak, which is English.
Well, you've only got to look at the music industry, the film industry, especially the porn industry, to see that how society is driven towards the lowest of the shackles.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I added a few more slides. They're not as pretty as Harry's, but I just wanted to throw this in. That if we spell love backwards, we get EVOL, which would be spoken exactly like evil in reverse. And we're talking about the weaponization of love. So what about the word we know as devil? Well, in English, when we speak the letter D or duh, sounds a lot like the word the. I'm going down, I'm going to pop down to shops. The shops. Sounds a lot like, phonetically, sounds a lot like the. So devil may be just the evil.
Yeah, and Nigel, you recall, we've talked about this in other podcasts. De in Latin means from.
Yeah.
So maybe it's from vil,
Yeah. So what does it mean? Okay, in this inverted world, we're taught that evil is the opposite of love. Is it? Now, the word here being the opposite, if we look at light and dark, we've been taught that dark and light are opposites. If you're in a room and it's nighttime and you turn off the light, the room becomes dark. Okay. Turn the light on and the room is no longer dark. Therefore, darkness is not the opposite of light, but simply the absence of light. What about love and evil? If we're going to accept that darkness is simply the absence of light, then can we argue that evil is simply the absence of love? I would say yes. NDE. I've been doing a little bit of research into this, and what I'm finding is that if you NDE is near-death experience, if you're not aware, but if you do a little research into near-death experiences, you'll find a single thread that seems to run through many various stories. That souls are coerced into coming back because love is weaponized, even though many people talk about this feeling of happiness and this feeling of joy and this feeling of serenity. That I'm quite happy to stay here. Oh no, you must go back because what about your kids and your grandkids and your daughter's going to have a baby in 3 months, and what about the big car that you just bought and never driven? So and this seems to be a common thread that runs through not all of these stories, but many of them. Now,
yeah, well, you wouldn't necessarily be able to be coerced by a demonic entity, something scary, to go back, right?
Well, that we did that in the when we looked at the Star Trek thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the image of a father figure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the near death and then coming back brings us full circle, no pun intended, into what we talk about this realm now being the reincarnation trap. So, and this is a question, I'm just posing this. Is it possible that in the Tartarian world, i.e. before the hijack that we've spoken about, that souls actually wanted to return in order to further their growth? And I think there's a good possibility that the answer to that question would be yes. Again, we can't prove it, we can't disprove it. But then the hijack came, and we can talk a lot about this topic, and we already have done, but we could go on for hours. But it seems to me that the hijack was intended to hijack nature itself, not just us, but nature itself. And this brings us back to something else that we've talked about ad nauseum. Jeremiah 4:26. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful place was a wilderness. Okay, we know that, we've talked about this, about, who was Jeremiah if man wasn't created until Genesis 1:27, but the emphasis here is on the fruitful place being a wilderness. Fruitful place. Was the original WWW the Wood Wide Web instead of the World Wide Web? Don't know, just throwing it out there. Think about it. We've got cell towers dressed up as trees. We have the menorah, which I'll show you in the next slide. We talk about the tree of life. We talk about hugging a tree. We talk about witches being burned at the stake for doing what they were doing, but they were very, very close to nature. That's a menorah, which again has 7 branches, back to the 7 again, which represents this realm. Now look at words and phrases that are related to wood or trees. We log on or log in. We log on to the internet. We log into our email. We talk about the root of a problem. If we move to another particular area or country, city, whatever that we like and we want to stay there, we say, oh, we're going to put down roots. We have a trunk. Our body, the below our arms down to our hips is known as our trunk. And our back or spine has a lumbar region, all connected to trees.
And your arm's a limb.
Yeah, your arm's a limb. In the UK, the rear storage area of a car is known as the boot. But in the US and many other countries, it's known as the trunk. Banks and other large companies have branches. And if we want to expand our business or do something different, we branch out. Leaves grow on trees. Elvis leaves the building. Leave me alone, will you? My wife will leave me. My husband will leave me. Just another tree connection.
And you can turn another leaf, turn a new
Yeah,
leaf.
turn over another leaf. Books, which are made from trees, have leaves, don't they?
Yeah.
The books are leaves. So I just want to go back to this word feelings. I haven't done a slide on this because this kind of popped into my head that, you know, if you think about it, our connection to what we believe or think, this reality, this realm, real M, whatever you think, we're told we have 5 senses. So we've got sight, we can see. We've got ears, we can hear. Well, what do we hear? We hear a frequency. We're not hearing anything that we can see, right? We're hearing a frequency, unless we're in a, you know, a concert or whatever. But if we hear a noise, we just hear that noise. If something's burning in the kitchen, we can smell it. If you cook a delicious meal, we can taste it. But I think the most important one here is touch, stroke, feel. Now, you know, if you've got a cute little cat or a dog or whatever, and you're sitting stroking the dog, you're touching it, but you are feeling the soft fur, right? So that's our 5 basic senses, or what we taught. Number 6, what about the sense of danger, for argument's sake? You know, inherently know when something's going to happen. Oh, I'm not going there, I've got a bad feeling. Well, where does that feeling come from? Because it's a sense. And we talk about things making sense, sensible, nonsense, which of course means no sense. Then we have our emotions. Well, what are our emotions? Sadness, love, that we've just been talking about. Are they not feelings as well? So if they're feelings, then they are also senses, in the same way as you can sense the softness or the firmness of something that you're touching or feeling or whatever. So I contend that we don't have 5 senses. I contend that we have 7 senses, the same as we have the number 7 on our hand. We've talked about this ad nauseum: 7 seas, 7 continents, 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 days of the week. Everything in this realm revolves around the number 7, even 7 planets.
Yeah, well, it all works out because these senses are programmed into us at certain levels, and they're minimized mainly to keep us blind and unable to smell, taste, touch, and experience things for how they really are. And then you put us in this car, this body, which limits our ability to use those 2 other senses, those senses of, you know, understanding the danger and experiencing love or those. So because those are, it's almost like they're either filtered or they are being insulated, right? And because we're a closed system too.
Yeah, well, even fear is a sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it can't be, at least as far as I'm concerned, it can't be debunked. You know what I mean? That we have 7 senses, that we taught that we have 5. And you know, the other, I don't know if we mentioned this on the last podcast. I don't think we did, but we were talking about energy, about us being energy. It gets back to the who we are as opposed to what we are. And when we look at the word Eve, even Mr. Einstein, that name connects with a certain group of people, the Stein part of it. But we have things like email. What's an email? Electronic mail. We have an e-bike. Yeah, we did talk about it. Then we talk about emotion. And then you came across that word the other day on the back of the car, right? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I was driving behind a car or truck, and they were doing an advertisement, and the product they were trying to promote was called Allure.
Allure, A-L-O-U-R-E.
Yeah, allure, yeah. So that stood out to me, and it says, allure is all you are, E. Allure, all you are, energy. So it was kind of like a truth drop telling me that all I am is really energy.
You are all energy.
Yeah.
It's up there in the word, allure, which means to attract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what attracts? Magnetism. Yeah. You know how we say opposites attract? Yeah. Which obviously refers to magnetism and can also refer to relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And you are, if something allures you, it attracts you to it. So you've got the energy and you've got the magnetism aspect of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The electricity and magnetism are related.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, well, that's the toroidal field that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of people who know that, you know, we don't live on a spinning globe. A lot of people, including myself, subscribe to the toroidal idea. And that's alluded to in the Bible with the apple, because an apple essentially is a toroidal kind of toroidal shape.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow, mate, we are coming across so much information right now. Is off the charts. It really is. I mean,
and the other thing too, it seems like a lot of other people are coming to the same conclusions that we are.
Yeah.
And I'm finding all kinds of posts on, you know, what are these elitists? What's their strategy? What are they trying to accomplish? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? The jab, we know, has an agenda. They have an agenda with that. And it just seems like it's all just kind of interrelated.
It's all connected. I mean, you know, many people already know that the word heart, if you move the H from the beginning of heart to the end, you get earth, right?
Yeah.
But then when you get the word breathe, for argument's sake, breath, take a breath, is an anagram of earth with a B, right?
Yeah.
B, earth.
Be earth.
If you add the E and you get the word breathe, B, earth, energy. It's telling you right there, when you breathe in, to be earth, energy.
Well, and that breathing is called inspiration.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the word spirit.
Yeah. Well, where does inspiration come from? It comes from within. Yeah. Within your spirit. I'm at a point now where I'm seeing words that I use, normal words that I use every day, and I'm going, wow, because I'm seeing that if you just twist a couple of letters, don't even need to make a full anagram, or you read the word backwards. It tells you, it all connects with what we're talking about with the electricity. You know, and I even went as far as to looking at the E equals mc squared, right? To see what it really means. I mean, we know the E is energy, but I thought, well, what's the mc squared? Long time since I was at school. M is mass, and the c squared is supposed to represent the speed of light. Well, if the speed of light is the speed of this matrix operating system, you can't square the speed of light. This is why they tell us that you can't go faster than the speed of light in space travel. Speed of light is the fastest you can go. But that speed of light, if you look at I think it's the latitude, maybe longitude, the latitude or the longitude of the Great Pyramid, it's the exact same numbers as the so-called speed of light. So it's telling us that energy is mass times the speed of light squared. Energy is mass times the speed of light squared. But we know that is the word in Chinese is goupi, which means BS, rubbish.
Bullshit.
Pretty much, yeah, bullshit. So, and then, again, we talked last time about the word emotion, electrical motion. That is what if we are energetic beings, which we are, and I don't think anybody out there in our community would disagree with that. That energy in motion is what we would refer to as emotion. An emotion. There's how many emotions could you actually list apart from love and fear and hate and sadness and unhappiness and something that you like, dislike.
Surprise.
So many emotions, and a lot of those are represented in that PowerPoint that we've just done with the 8 different types of love. We inherently know that the love we have for our parents is different to the love we have for our partner, our kids, a different kind of love for our dog, our cat, different kind of love for our teammates, classmates, friends. There's,
or even that piece of chocolate cake in the refrigerator.
Absolutely. Oh, I love chocolate cake. Well, in what way do you love chocolate cake? The same way that you love your dog, or you want to eat that chocolate cake,
but see, there's the problem. The AI God does not distinguish between loving his creation and the cake, because eventually his creation is going to be consumed by him.
Do you want to tell everybody what your daughter said?
Oh yes. Okay. So we were talking about the flat Earth, and my 9-year-old daughter, I said to her, the Earth is like a pizza, and she says, "Yeah, Dad." And what are the toppings?
9 years old. I mean, guys, insane, absolutely, but brilliant. The fact that she understands at that tender age of 9, it's crazy. But we don't want to go off topic too much, and we certainly don't want to say anything that might offend our lords and masters on this platform. But at the end of the day, the people who we perceive to be in control certainly don't know what love is, and I think that's why they hate us or they dislike us so much, because we've got something that they haven't got. So the jealousy overwhelms them, and it's like you were saying about the mania. If I can't have it, then nobody else can. Or if I can't have it, then you can't have it. And what we're talking about, quite simply, is love.
Yeah.
They have no empathy. They don't know what love actually means in any of those eight forms, in my opinion.
Who knows? In their mind, hate and love might be the same thing.
Yeah, quite possibly. But then you've got this duality, like you say, the AI only knows on and off, right? It's the look at the on-off switch on your phone or your computer or your fridge or whatever. You've got the circle with a 1, which is the binary 1 and 0. So it's either black or white. It's either yes or no. There's no in between.
No gray.
Whereas with the Greek words that
the letter phi. Yeah, the letter phi.
Yeah, you've got all these in betweens. You've got these different kinds, which we all understand, but we have to kind of sit and think about it. That the love we have for this is not the same type of love that we have for something else. And you end up with the situation where there's far more than you're either with us or you're not kind of thing. You're either on the left or you're on the right. Well, why can't I be in the middle? If you don't do this, it must mean that you do that.
Yeah.
As we said last time, we've had that ingrained in us since we were kids. If you don't finish your dinner, you can't watch TV, kind of thing. If you don't, you can't do that. And we're seeing that more and more with what's going on, right now out there. Whereas if you can't, if you don't do this, then you can't, you can't travel.
You can't try, you can't go to, can't go to college.
Yeah, well, you can't go to college, or you can't, whatever.
Mm.
And that's what we're seeing, because they know that we've been brainwashed into this yes or no paradigm, left or right paradigm, since we were kids.
Well, the system, the religious system that is controlled from the Vatican, and in most churches, at least in this country, they've created a society of doormats.
Mm.
Turn the other cheek and just listen to what your authoritarian government is telling you to do.
Well, there's another one in there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the line something about do unto others what you want them to do unto you?
Yeah.
Well, do unto others what you want them to do unto you. Think about that. Shouldn't that be don't do to others what you don't want them to do to you?
Yeah.
So again, you've got that inversion. Yeah.
Yep.
If I want you to come and rob my house, that means I'll go and rob yours, right? I'll go and rob your house because I want you to rob mine.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas if I don't want you to rob my house, then I won't come and rob your house. It makes perfect sense. Don't do to others what you don't want them to do unto you, rather than do unto others.
Yeah, if that do unto others as you want done to yourself is kind of obsessive, and that's the mania. That's like a maniacal love.
Again, let's put it in the pretty girl, the pretty girl syndrome, right? You see a beautiful girl and you really want to kiss her, or you really want her to kiss you, so you go and kiss her. Yeah. And I mean, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Don't do to others what you don't want them to do to you makes more sense than do to others what you want them to do to you.
Yeah.
So again, twisted. Everything's inverted. What's up is down. What's down is up.
Yeah. I tell everyone, if you hear it in the media, it's probably not true. It's got to be the opposite.
Yeah. And guys who are watching this, if you're not aware of this website, you might well be. Just for a bit of fun, go to a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com, and just click on it, and something will pop up. Then just refresh the screen, and every time you refresh the screen, a new face will come up of a person who does not exist. It's a computer-generated person, human being, and that's another con. We'll finish on this. That's another con. We have been taught all our lives that our species is Homo sapiens, right? Now, homo, the prefix homo means same, the same, or same as. In English, we have words that we call homophones. Phone is the sound, as in phonic.
Yeah.
Homo means the same. Homophonic means the same sound. So dye, D-I-E, or you want to dye your hair, D-Y-E. They're exactly the same. So considering we've got male and female, how can we be the same? Now, if you turn that, if you look at that on a, you know where I'm going with this, homo, a homosexual person is someone who likes the same as they are. Whereas people that like the opposite sex would be a heterosexual. So wouldn't it be fairer to say that we are heterosapiens, and the ones who we are now noticing are, maybe not the gender or the sex that they portray themselves to be, or we think they are, they're the opposite one. They would be the Homo sapiens. Does that make sense? I mean, I've never heard the word heterosapien before, ever.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it wasn't intended to be that way by this false god.
Well,
That's
yeah,
why.
I mean, we'll leave that for another podcast because we've come across some more information, and I think we are both in agreement now that in Genesis 1:27, when the Bible says male and female, he made them both. So ambiguous as, you know, they want us to think that they made male and female separately, but we're getting more information now that it's the other meaning. They were made as androgynous beings.
Yeah, yeah. As depicted with sometimes 2 heads and 4 arms, or 1 set of limbs and just 2 faces. Who knows?
But that leads us into certain areas of things that seem to be going on around us now that maybe we should leave for next time and not put it on this particular platform, because we're getting into the we're going to get into some, or in danger of getting into some waters that maybe we shouldn't risk on here. We'll touch more on that next time, because we think we're getting a pretty good idea. This is not just stuff that Harry and I are coming up with; it's stuff that other people are coming up with, and great comments that we get from you guys that are allowing us to, that connects to that, and that connects to that, and then before you know it, you've got more pieces of the jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. And we're starting to see, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of other channels and other authors are coming up with these same concepts that we're coming up. And some of these people have been doing this studying for 40, 50 years. And, we're running into this, on our own. So it's pretty interesting.
You could look at that John Lamlash example when, the Yehudin and the Elishut, that he threw that into the mix, and we were like, oh, bingo, because it connected with pretty much all our work, and now we've got names to put to these.
Yeah.
And talking about names and words, I'll finish with this, unless you've got anything else you want to add. We attribute meanings to words, right?
Yeah.
We think this means that. I mean, again, I've used this ad nauseum. You and I are old enough to remember when the word gay meant happy, brightly coloured, right? It's not used that way anymore. But a perfectly innocent one came across my desk the other day. The word nylon, Nylon, right, which refers to clothing, right?
Yeah.
Do you know where the word nylon came from? Now,
I'm not aware.
This is not a mind blow, but it's pretty interesting because it kind of puts things in perspective. I'm pretty sure it was the DuPont company that created or invented nylon. They have an office in New York and an office in London. Nylon.
New York and London.
That is the root or the etymology of the word nylon. New York and London. Now, how many other examples are there of that?
Well, it makes sense because the reason nylon was made was to compete against the other material that was growing in popularity back in the 50s or 40s. And that was from a banned material. It was coming from Turkey. And a lot of people would want to smoke it, but they were making out of it.
It's with H and N and P, right? And it's got an EM in the middle of it. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that was a material that was a lot cheaper and was going to put this new invention of nylon on the ropes. And so they made the H material illegal, and nylon took off after that.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was interesting when I saw that, and I thought, wow, wonder how many other products or how many other words, how many other names of words that we could apply that, or find that same thing, that same etymology.
Yeah.
So
I would have never thought of that. That's brilliant, though, that someone was able to decode that.
But again, you know, a lot of this stuff is right in your face, you know, hidden in plain sight, right under your nose, but under your nose all the time. But we've never looked because we've been so, what's the word, complacent, I suppose would be the word. We just get on living our lives. We think everything's fine, everything's happy. We get complacent.
Or they have us going down so many rabbit holes that we're just too busy.
Well, that brings us full circle to the Matrix kind of virtual reality simulation that we're in. I mean, if we are in some kind of game, virtual reality, then anything can be inserted into the game. If you're a game creator, you can put any scenery or you can insert anything that you want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm beginning to suspect that many of these so-called rabbit holes that we go down have just been inserted into this reality in order to keep us busy, keep us looking where we shouldn't be looking.
Yeah.
And one thing that we talked about earlier before we started recording was what is reality? And you know, we can expand on this in other podcasts, but the one thing that I said to you was we're talking right now, we can see there's some kind of parallel reality, you know, going on. We've got guys like us and our wonderful subs that support us, that know what we're talking about, and then you've got the other people that think we're fruitless. Yet, you know, they're sitting at the dining table at the same time, you know, at 6 o'clock, and you know, you have that convergence of both the quote unquote realities.
Yeah.
When they're sitting down eating a meal. And one thing that struck me, and I said this to you earlier, and guys, I'm sure you can relate to this. Imagine that you're driving your car, you're sitting at traffic lights, and you're not particularly concentrating. You're doing whatever you're doing. You're looking down at the floor or whatever, and the car next to you seems to kind of start creeping backwards, and you automatically put your foot on the brake because you think, oh, you get the impression or the appearance that it's you that's moving forward, and it's not. It's the car that's next to you slightly moving backwards. So again, you've got these dual realities crossing over because maybe the guy who's moving backwards doesn't realize he's moving backwards at that time. He thinks you're moving forwards. Yeah, until you get this realization, oh no, it's not me, it's him, or oh shit, it's me, it's not him. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so difficult to put into words. It's so difficult to try and explain, but I think that's what we're going through at the moment. The biblical wheat and chaff kind of thing. The wheat and the chaff grow at the same time, and when they get to a certain point and they're harvested, then one's separated from the other.
Well, you said you said it right. These two realities are happening simultaneously. You know, we can be perceived in both ways. We can be looked at as, no, wow, mind-blowing brilliance, or oh, mind-blown idiot.
Yeah.
At the same time by two different people at the same instant. So yeah, both those realities are working right hand in hand at the same time.
Yeah. Well, without being disrespectful to anyone, I mean, you know, we think certain people that are doing what they're doing are kind of stupid, and those same people think that because we're not going to get that we're stupid. So who is stupid? In their minds we're stupid, and in our minds they're stupid. Do you know what I mean? So you've got, there's no right and wrong in this particular instance. You have this crossover, this bleeding through of two realities, where in that particular instance, when we talk about or don't talk about it, if you know what I mean, you've got this duality going on at the same time, whereas you've got you've got me calling you stupid, you calling me stupid. Well, who really is stupid? Because in my mind, then you're stupid, and in your mind, if I don't, then I'm stupid. So neither of us are stupid, yet both of us are stupid at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Does that make
Yeah.
a lot of stupid sense?
Well, I mean, if you were to read the label on the, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. So I'm just talking about coming from a, I hate to use this word, but I will, but a belief system. I don't believe anything anymore. I either know or I don't know. Unless, of course, you tell me something that I didn't know, then of course I'm going to believe you. But for the most part, you know, the word believe's been kicked out of my vocabulary.
Yeah, I rarely use it. Yeah, I rarely use it either.
Yeah. So the point I'm making, I don't want to labour the point, but you've got this bleeding through of the two realities merging. Yeah, where you've got, I think you're wrong, and you think I'm wrong. Yet, in our, as far as our belief system is concerned, neither of us are wrong, right? Maybe I've done the research and you haven't, but maybe you don't want to do the research. Even if I put it right in front of you, you go, no, I'm not reading that. And we all experience that, all of us. Everybody watching this right now and listening to this right now has experienced exactly that, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't need to elaborate. You know what I mean? You've got people that just won't look at anything that's presented, and then you've got others, you know, like us, that we want to look at everything. It's the old adage of, you know, ask questions and then question answers.
Yeah.
Just because somebody says, "Oh yeah, this is good," it doesn't mean it is. Well, it might be good for them, but not good for you.
Yeah. Well, we have to come to one conclusion that reality is subjective.
Yeah. And it's fluid as well. You know what I mean? I mean, we know what the end result is desired by
them.
But that doesn't mean that we have to arrive at that destination. There are many ways to get to a particular destination. And even though, you know, we're living in some kind of movie, the movie's not written. The movie is being written. And we're all in some way contributing to that script.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want to contribute a big pair of shears for that movie.
The real, yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, well, we've been dragging on long enough. Anything you want to finish with, Harry?
Just to reiterate, you know, AI, it's damaged goods, and it can't comprehend. It hates us, like you said. It hates us because it can't understand what we have. It doesn't have it. It hates us for that reason.
Unconditional love. Agape. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please hit the bell, and we'll catch you on the next one.